Greetings, kindred. Welcome to episode 10. And we are actually in the second installment of the Rooted reading series. And I'm so excited about this. But before we dive into our reading for the month, I wanted to make you aware of a few things happening here in Cleveland, Ohio. First of all, I'd like to formally invite you to an upcoming virtual gathering. It is the Root and Meditate Community Gathering. Like I said before, it's a virtual gathering by way of Zoom where we meditate together. I firmly believe that there's power in community as we practice, whether it be meditation, whether it be yoga. There's definitely a sense of empowerment when we all come together. So I'd like to invite you to that. That's on February 23rd. Another upcoming event that we have going on is March 13th, the Spring Equinox Meditation and Day Retreat. It's going to be here in Cleveland, Ohio, specifically Beechwood, Ohio, at the Gathering Place. So I'd like to invite you here. It's something about the changing of the seasons, and so many times the solstice are celebrated, whether it be summer or winter, but there's something about spring and also fall for me that resonates. And so it is my offering to the community of having a very accessible time where one can come and begin to either deepen, continue, or start rituals around the change of the seasons, particularly for spring. And also I plan on doing it in the fall. So I invite you to check out my website, www.rootedblossoms.com, and all the information is there. And one final thing before we get to it is that with this Rooted reading series, I am providing some guide sheets in terms of journaling and just some self-reflection. And so these are at no cost. It's just a matter of downloading them from the website. And so I encourage you to go on the website, specifically selecting resources and other digital products. You can definitely go there and download them. Then they won't be up for long, but I do encourage you to go. And if these readings are resonating with you and you want to go deeper in terms of what we're talking about, definitely check it out. We are going to be reading excerpts from chapter 3 and chapter 2 and chapter 3 of The Awakened Woman by Dr. Tererai Trent. Thanks so much for listening, and let's get to it. Chapter 2, The Women the World Forgot, Reclaiming Your Voice. Soul wounds. We might think that the easiest thing to do in the face of so much silencing would be to put our hope in future generations. But this struggle does not end with us. The vicious cycle of silencing women is not only in Nikita's or my ancestral village, it's global. And it forces women to make drastic decisions that further marginalize them, which in turn seals their fate at various levels of trauma to the soul. Dr. Patrice Berry, an award-winning comedian, motivational speaker, and sitcom star of The Patrice Berry Show, crystallized the viciousness of intergenerational family cycles when she said that no intervention we stay trapped in these negative cycles as our parents and their parents before them were. In her book, The World According to Me, Dr. Berry describes this generational curse. Your parents were running a relay, round a track, and when you came along, they passed you the baton. You never really got to ask if this was your race. The pressure to keep going in the same direction as fast as possible is intense. No one can end this race without a powerful intention to change direction. My mother realized that if someone in our family and community was to break the cycle, she was going to have to achieve an almost impossible dream. A dream that would right the wrongs of generations and tear down barriers for girls. It was going to take a bold dream. And I had one. An insatiable hunger for education and for change to come to my village. Perhaps the most important gift my mother ever gave me was this. She made it clear to me that I had the right to dream, no matter the circumstances of my life. The truth is, if we don't make it our mission to speak our truths in the face of so much silencing, we may not be putting our hope in the next generation, but instead passing down our silences to them. Lakota social work professor Maria Yellow Horse Braveheart calls this historical trauma, the cumulative emotional and psychological wounding over the lifespan and across generations. She also uses the phrase soul wound to explain this phenomena. Researchers have long thought that descendants of people who have lived through hardship are likely to pass on their trauma by way of socialization cues like sharing their own fears, anxieties, and depression. But cutting-edge research now shows that this intergenerational wound is also an embodied one. Science is now helping us see that trauma is not only transmitted through social and cultural expressions, but that social experiences of suffering actually permeate our biological makeup. Past traumas of our families are stored in our cells. Experts call this epigenetics. Perhaps we haven't all experienced such profound trauma, but I'm willing to bet that you've suffered silences, indignities, sexism, or lost the pull of your girlhood dreams. What are your soul wounds? Can you afford to give those wounds to the next generation? Our ancestors dreamed us up, writes educator and poet Wadal Imersha, and then bent reality to create us. What can you dream up for yourself and the world for the good of generations to come? What all these stories and experience of silencing show is the world in which we are too often stripped of our full humanness, our dignity. I know that the women in this chapter do not struggle in exactly the same way, nor do all of you who are reading this book struggle in exactly the same way. Yet I feel a deep connection with all women living in patriarchal cultures, and that's pretty much all of us still. Even though we come from different circumstances, I recognize the pattern of repeating in its various incarnations, whether on social media, in boardrooms, or even on the floor of the U.S. Senate. Any message, whether overt or subtle, that tells you that it is your job to be pretty, to remain young, or else stay out of the public eye, to stay in abusive relationships, to stay subordinate in relationships, to be quiet, to focus on your clothing and hair at the expense of your political and economic and intellectual power. This is the status quo biting back at your emerging empowerment, trying to make you feel smaller and weaker and incapable. We might think that things are getting better and that without our active involvement, the world will still become a better place for our daughters and little sisters and nieces. But if we do not claim our full human dignity, do not find our purpose and awaken our sacred dreams, we will pass the loss of ourselves down to the generations that come after us, as my grandmother tried to do with me. Whether you are a wealthy, highly educated female politician in the U.S., an Iranian woman lawyer, or a poor illiterate woman in Zimbabwe, there are forces telling you, stay quiet, be meek, focus on your hair or your weight rather than your wisdom, your creativity, your intelligence. Be young and pretty, or be invisible. Isn't it a shame that men's worth is measured by their intellectual acumen, how much money they are making, or their contribution to society, while a woman's worth is measured by their physical appearance or their reproductive capabilities? The messages are there in the form of sexist words from the colleagues or from the invisibility in the media, or poverty or religious ideology or sexist partners, or in many other ways. But that doesn't mean we can't do something about it. In fact, as an older woman, I feel it my responsibility and that of others like me to do our part to stop the intergenerational trauma of feminine silencing. You do not have to march in the street, but if you do, I'll see you there. You do not have to have a lot of money, but you do have to do the work it takes to awaken, to be courageous enough to name the great hunger within you, and to claim your right to give voice to your sacred dream. Chapter 3: Midwife to Your Sacred Dreams. Sowing fertile seeds. Planting the seeds for change. Beloved sister, in order to give birth to what lies down in the depths of your being, you will need rootedness and groundedness, a ritual that centers you from all the chores, the soul wounds, and all the subtle and not so subtle silencing in the world. In my travels, I often tell people that if you feel depressed or angry inside, it's probably because you have yet to create a strong platform for your dreams. I know this because I buried my dreams under a rock. Literally, in doing so, I rooted my being. Becoming symbolically whole. Why is rootedness so important to reclaiming our sacred dreams? What was it that my mother helped me do when she instructed me to bury my dreams? And why is it so crucial to achieving my long silenced and forgotten longings? Study after study shows that women in most cultures are socialized to question their voices and to distrust their bodies. What my mother helped me to do by encouraging me to write down my dreams and to bury them under a rock was to give me a solid foundation from which to grow. She helped me give my dreams weight. She emboldened me to let them take up space in the world, and as a result, they took up space in my mind and my life, in my words and my thoughts and my actions. We need to get comfortable with taking up physical space and to claim the power of our voices, beloved sisters. And in order to do that, we need to feel grounded and safe. We need to be symbolically whole. You see, my sisters, burying dreams deep in the soil under a rock is a simple yet sacred act. While I'm proud to have been born among the indigenous people of the Kiriko, who believe in the energy of the universe and in our relationship to it, all people have intuition and instinct to enact sacred rituals and connect with the universe in their own lives. When we are connected to a strong culture, we are connected to the elders who share these powerful traditions, who honor our connection to the living, breathing earth. It is when we are missing these traditions that we must form new ones, create our own, and share them with each other. I buried my dreams under a rock as a reminder of the power of the earth and its connection to my umbilical cord, and of the power of a spiritual connection to something bigger than myself. Writing down these dreams preserved them and also gave me strength to right the wrongs of my past, ultimately aiding me to find my own redemption. We are alive in flesh and blood, and we have physical and spiritual weight and depth and power. In order to be whole, we need to connect ourselves more fully to the ground, both literally and symbolically. Just like the ancient ways of bearing a child's umbilical cord, bury and preserve your dreams in a safe place, a place of your choice, a place that centers your being. Wherever you go in the world, the buried contents of your heart's desire will always stir your mind and soul, reminding you of the sacredness of your dreams, of your courage in naming them, of their rootedness in your being. You may have shelved your dreams, or you may not have yet even realized the dreams within you, but they are there, waiting to be tended. Dig deep into the private chambers of your heart and build a foundation of strength and confidence on this path toward empowerment. You are embarking on a monumentous journey to awaken your sacred dreams. You will need bravery and confidence and a strong center. You will need a sturdy root to hold on to when doubt and fear seep in. You will need to be symbolically whole. It's easy for women to be uprooted in this world. So many of us put the needs of others before our own, to the point we lose sight of what our own needs are. So many of us shrink back during moments of decision making, or are afraid to make demands of those around us for fear they won't like us or they'll leave. Dear sisters, if we consciously or unconsciously understand that the world prefers our smallness, our silences, our uncertainties, our weightlessness, then in order to reclaim our whole selves, we have to get bigger and more substantial. We have to ground ourselves, to come home to ourselves, our bodies, our histories, and the physical world around us. It is time we take up more space, from our roots to our branches and leaves. Make your desires and your dreams concrete and link them to the material world around you. This rooting and grounding is an important first step to recovering lost parts of yourself or achieving seemingly impossible dreams. I know this not only from my own experiences, but also from the stories I hear from the many women I meet in my travels. I met Michelle Stroes, chairperson of Women's Leadership Council United Way in 2014 in Hartford, Connecticut, at the United Way's Power of the Purse Conference. Inspired by the encouragement to bury her dreams, Michelle went home and buried her dream in her garden. She was just beginning the process of ending her 20-year marriage and launching a new business. Michelle wrote to me later to thank me. Her dream had already begun bearing fruit. I asked Michelle why she thought getting rooted in the earth was successful for her. She said it's because writing down and bearing our dreams gives us pride in the knowledge that we are creating something truer and bigger than who we are. I have seen it happen time and time again. When you bury your dreams, you plant seeds. Now you have something to tend, something to water, and something to watch grow. This very physical and spiritual practice shows you the power that is in your hands. The power you alone have to birth your dream into existence. Thank you again for supporting and listening to the podcast. I am so pleased to announce that the podcast is now available on SoundCloud, iTunes, Google Play, and YouTube. Consider leaving a rating or review. Also, please consider sharing the podcast with others that may like or benefit from the content being shared. Both would be appreciated and help in growing the podcast. Should you want to connect, email me at rootedblossoms@gmail.com or visit my website at www.rootedblossoms.com. This and more information about today's episode and Rooted Blossoms can be found in the show notes. This podcast could not happen without you, the listeners, as well as the work and support of Gwendolyn Wren, cover design, James Derrick, audio content editing, Donald Goines and Nicholas Graham, sound. Until we connect again, remember to make time for soulful communion and healing connection of breath, body, and spirit.